Hey gang, Doug and Tom here down in the studio. Uh, we hadn't done a new YouTube for a while, and some of my friends have been asking. Well, actually, not some of my friends. One buddy I know says, "When are you going to do another one?" Uh, so here we are today, and it's a beautiful early spring day, which is nice. And I brought another book. I have a whole bunch of books. This one is called Boomer Years, Baby Boomers. And Tom and I are baby boomers. And I guess every generation since they started baby boomers, I don't even recall them having titles of generations prior to baby boomers. I never
Now
heard
we
of
call the
any.
greatest generation.
Oh,
We've given that name to the World War II folks.
okay, good. That
Yeah.
might have been the start of them labeling
I
generations.
think we probably labeled them after the baby boomers. Came up with that. They didn't
Okay.
call themselves the greatest generation.
Yeah, okay. Although, good grief. Tom and I watch a lot of YouTube, and geez, some of those historic um, movies, live movies, and some of them colorized, of the horror of wars.
Yeah, yeah.
And these new generations, I don't think they get it. That happened and maybe could happen again. Who knows? I hope not. Anyway, some recollections here we have.
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
Of baby boomers and growing up. I saw on here, if you step on a crack, you'll break your mother's back.
Right.
Do you remember what
Yeah.
how that phrase came about?
Well, yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, you grew up in the city
Yeah,
too, didn't you?
Sure, I did. Yeah, Philadelphia and Northeast Philadelphia, Oxford Circle area. So
Okay.
you had all the row homes, or in our case, there were twins.
Okay.
But there was a concrete pavement down in front of the whole house, the block,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
those concrete they were squares. They were squares about maybe 4 feet by 4 feet each piece of concrete
Okay.
on the pavement.
Yes.
And at the end of one was a crack, and
Okay.
it wasn't a crack like something broken. It was actually a seam.
A seam.
For
Yep.
the ice, you couldn't have this expanding in all one piece. So these sections would be able to expand independently, and so where those two met, that was the crack, and the kids would play sort of a hopscotch.
That's what the book is
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
Right, and so when you were playing hopscotch, you had to avoid putting your foot on one of those. If you stepped on the crack, you broke your mother's back. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And that was a rhyme that was
Yeah.
part of it. Yeah,
And
most of those I remember those
Yeah.
things. But go ahead.
and I can remember early on. Well, I'm going to stay in the period.
Okay.
It also, the guy was the author, and we always want to give credit to these authors because I enjoy these books. Paul McKinney.
Okay.
So Paul McKinney wrote this book.
Right.
And he was talking about the driveway to his house. And I think he lived maybe in the suburbs like I did outside of Pittsburgh. But the driveway wasn't paved. And the driveway was just like cinders or gravel, went back to another building called a garage. They weren't attached to the house.
Right.
Now, you were in a row house.
Well, actually, I was in a twin, which was
Oh.
they some other areas call it something different. You know, a
Okay.
twin meant it was one building,
Okay.
two houses that were separate.
I
And,
gotcha.
Some other places actually talked about it more as one building, you know, but in Philly it was a twin.
Twin.
And
Yeah.
so two separate entrances.
Yeah.
And the doors were the most common and closest
Okay.
part were the front door. But
Okay.
you came up from your own porch
Yeah.
and entered that way.
Now, I'm curious, how did that work out with like neighbors? Like, what if the person that bought the twin next to you was a rat?
Yeah, well,
Was a
then,
pain in the butt or
I guess you
whatever.
had to deal with that. We never
always had a
had
good
that. Always had good neighbors. Yeah.
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 Well, I got a feeling you had parents that felt that was important and did their part.
Yeah, I think so too.
And probably the other people.
It's funny too, and it may come out in this book. In this neighborhood where I was, it was all when we moved there.
Yeah.
We were a big family,
Okay.
and it went that way. But when we moved there, it was all mostly old women, either widows or spinsters or never.
Oh, yeah.
And
The men died a lot younger back in
seemed
that
to,
day.
yeah. And so, and we
Yeah.
as kids, we ran the errands for these women. I can
Oh,
remember
really?
quite a few. Yeah, Miss
Yeah.
Glenn. Miss Glenn was about
Yeah.
80 years old,
Yeah.
and she wanted bologna on number 4 thick, and all these things that
Get out.
yeah.
So you would
Mrs.
run.
Bronson down there,
Yeah.
Mrs. Stolte, and
Were these jobs or just neighborly?
well, no, they would
favors?
give us they would give us a
you
little
some-
money, for
Okay.
making a trip.
Couple of nickels or something?
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and they had very, very specific written orders. You know, we would go to the store and get the things on this list for these
Oh,
folks.
I
you know.
gotcha.
But
Oh, that's interesting.
but I'm saying that because it was we played in the street as time went on. Other big families when these folks
Yes.
died off. People with big families that needed all the bedrooms and things. We had
Yes.
5 rooms, 3 stories. So
Yeah.
they were big homes.
So you could have a pretty big family in, some of those.
Yeah, so the younger families moved in, see, and then
Okay.
it changed to where we played the games in the streets and things like that.
Yeah.
But it was interesting in the turn, the way things changed.
Yeah. Another reminiscence that I had back in the day was my dad's workbench I can't remember if it was in our basement or in the garage. Our garage again was a
You had a
separate little
garage.
building.
I'm with you. I remember.
Okay.
There were some of those around us. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't remember, but he had a workbench, and he had a, I'm trying to, oh, yeah, I know the point I was getting to. He had a vise that he had attached to the workbench.
Mm-hmm.
And he explained to me as a kid, you've got to have a vise attached, anchored into your workbench so you can work on things on the workbench.
Right.
Okay, so, which I thought was pretty cool because you didn't have to hold something.
Yeah, right.
You could just screw it
That was
into
like
the
your
vise.
third hand and
Yeah.
held things securely too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You being an engineer, that wouldn't have surprised you and so forth. but-
Right. I probably, my father had one. I can picture it in the basement, and I have
Okay.
2. I have one on the workbench and one portable for when I'm working on a car, attached to my little
That's right.
contraption there.
Tom still works on his own cars. Jeez. Anyway, I remembered also my dad used to paint our house. Again, we were in the suburbs.
Uh-huh.
This was just a square, blocked out house, 4 sides, no pointy stuff at the top or any of that.
Wow.
and it was
Was it a flat roof?
no, not out in the
Okay.
Pittsburgh suburbs.
Uh-huh.
And he always, and I can hear it to this day, the clanging, the racket of this aluminum extension ladder
Oh, yeah.
that he would use to paint the house. Did you people in the city in Philly paint your houses? Do you ever recall that?
No,
Or
not
were
not
it-
mine. And
Yeah.
well, a lot of areas where I grew up were row homes. I mean, this
Yeah.
little section of Frankfurt called Northwood, the homes were twins and these big ones, and it was kind of upscale compared to the row
Okay.
home areas, you know.
Okay.
But certainly a row home only had a front and a back, right?
Yeah.
And they were brick mostly. So
Okay. Did you have one side?
no,
A front,
if
a
you
back?
weren't at no row homes were all connected together. So
Okay.
in fact, I lived in one of those for a while in Southwest Philadelphia. But 16-foot row, 16 feet wide,
Right.
2 stories.
Yeah.
And row meaning you're right in the middle. The row, if you looked at it from, if you could get back and look at it, you're talking about maybe 20 houses
Yeah.
all in a row.
Right.
And the only ones that had an end on them were the first one and the 20th one.
Were those to be prized? Were those?
I
a
think
little
they
more,
were. Yeah, they were.
'cause you had a little
people
more
wanted
peace and
to-
quiet
Yeah,
and so
people
forth.
wanted the end of a row, you know.
So
but,
the developer, when he was selling them, that had a
Yeah,
little premium on
I
those
think they
houses,
still do
probably.
that. Sure. When I see
Yeah.
these 55 plus communities, the same
Right.
thing goes on.
Yeah.
So these little clusters.
Yeah.
And if you have an end with a good view, it's going to cost more, you know.
Sure.
But yeah,
Sure.
the row homes were like that. Now, in my case, with a twin,
Yeah.
we only had to take care of one side of the property. You're talking about your neighbor. What if your neighbor wanted to paint his pink?
And you could do that
Yeah, you
because there were
could,
no
right,
HOAs.
No, there weren't. No, there weren't.
It
So
was up to the people to have some kind of civilized.
yeah, an
thinking.
agreement. A lot of times you would have like if you were going to do a new porch railing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
might get together and then say, hey, are you interested? I got this quote, and I'm thinking about getting mine done. You want
I
to
bet
chip
that
in?
was not a lot.
Yeah, it was. So
That's-
then you have you make a deal on splitting it and getting
Yeah.
the whole thing done, so the place looks good from
Yeah.
the street. Yeah, and you painted I would say the only thing I had to paint was the front, just like in a row house. The side of the house was all brick, 3-story brick.
Oh,
And,
okay.
So
How about the back? of
and the
house?
back was sometimes frame.
Okay.
Something added on maybe from
Yeah.
the original, you know, and it was
Yeah.
it was frame, and that needed to be painted, and the front needed some paint,
Yeah.
but mostly just trim. It was still brick.
Yeah.
You painted the windows, you painted the porch columns,
Right.
and any trim all the way up. But that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, that's neat. Another thing I remembered from those days was, and the author talks about his private spot in the backyard was the best place on earth. And I remember we had a backyard. Again, we were in the early Pittsburgh suburbs, and in the back corner there was a bunch of bushes all grown up, and we hollowed out that area inside the bushes because we always wanted to have a fort.
Yeah.
Do you guys build forts?
We did. We built,
and we called it a fort.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Couple of stories there.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
to mind. One is growing up the way we did. No one cursed. My parents didn't, and it was,
You're right.
And
Yep.
but yet my grandfather, my father's father,
Yeah.
would say, "What the hell?" You know? And we couldn't say that, but we were building a fort in the backyard one time, And my brother said to me, he's talking about, and he's going to cut a piece of wood with a saw, got
Yeah.
a handsaw.
Okay.
And he says, should I cut it here? And I said, yeah, what the hell? I was ratted out.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. Got a lot of trouble for that.
right.
As I did lots of times, I was in trouble. But yeah, I still remember. Where did
my
I even get that?
gosh.
I'm just mimicking him. It's the only time I
Yeah.
ever heard it, even, I think, you know.
Boy, that's a topic for another day. It's somewhere along in this book. I mean, we're getting started. We're only up to page 21. This thing goes close to 300 pages.
I'm sure there's a lot there.
A lot of good discussions.
Now, we had one that the neighborhood did. It was called a VG, similar to what you have. So
okay.
there was a property that was kind of open. It wasn't developed. There was people voted there in a little building.
Yeah.
But off to the side, it was all overgrown with
Okay.
that stuff that grows tall weeds.
Sure.
And we would hang out in there and build a fort in there.
Yeah.
And VG was Victory Garden. So back in World War II, right?
Victory Gardens.
Yeah, and that was a Victory Garden.
A lot of people had Victory Gardens.
Right, and we went by VG. We didn't even know what it
was
stood
the purpose
for.
of those
Well,
gardens?
I think maybe they grew their own food and maybe shared it.
So
Because there wasn't so much available.
to leave money available, you wouldn't spend on your groceries.
Yeah.
To leave money available out there for the troops,
Right,
or
yeah.
so forth.
So just a way to help, But
and it was called a VG.
well, VG being the initials for Victory Garden.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until later that we knew it stood for Victory Garden.
Yeah.
As kids, it was the VG.
Yeah.
Belonged to the VG.
Okay. Yeah. And was it boys and girls?
Mostly boys.
Mostly
Yeah,
boys,
mostly
I
boys.
recall, with
Yeah.
forts.
Right.
And it was always called a fort.
Yeah, it was. No matter what it was a fort. Yeah.
I made a note here because I do kind of look at these things before we talk about them. I can remember out in the woods. We decided we're going out in the woods and we're going to build an underground fort. And so we spent the first part of it digging this deep trench to a big room. And then we covered it, okay, with like old boards and dirt. So you would enter down this hole and go along this trench into the underground fort.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it would only hold like 3 or 4 kids. But I think to myself, because we got candles, so we could have light in there, okay? I don't know how we could have killed each other down there. Maybe the candles would have taken up all the oxygen or something. I don't know. I think of that today.
Yeah.
But back then,
Right, back then it's nothing. You just
no,
do
it was nothing.
Right.
It was it was just pretty cool.
Can you imagine the boys today with their bicycle helmets?
Yeah.
No way they'd ever get down there. Their
I know.
parents watching them. Let that happen.
So we had that, and the other neighborhood decided they would build one to compete with us. We were all kind of friends, so they built one. This was outside of Pittsburgh, and it's kind of hilly around Pittsburgh.
Yeah, been there. It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So down a little valley and a creek, and then up the ravine on the other side, our buddies built one too. So what's the next logical step? It's to have a war between the two forts. And we decided we'd use our BB guns.
All right.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, those were those daisy pump action.
Yeah.
I mean, at a certain distance, they could put a hole in you a little bit.
I guess they could.
Or as what was the famous line in
So
Christmas
you're
Story?
going to put your eye out.
Put your eye
Put your
out.
eye out with that thing. Yeah, yeah.
And I can't believe, but and then another time, and if something pops into your mind, we decided in our fort we wanted some skins, animal skins, you know, like you hang in a den.
Yeah.
So we found an old dead skunk out on the road, some roadkill. And oh my gosh. So we decided we'd skin this skunk. And we found a squirrel and a possum, and we would skin them and hang them in our forts. And somebody, we were all gathered around, was skinning the skunk and hit the smell sack, which kind of didn't explode, but the fumes. I mean, we've all smelled skunks. It's amazingly powerful. That's their weapon. But it was John, this guy who was fearless, kept on skinning it. So we had a skunk hanging in our fort. So that was the fort, and BB guns, etc. And another thing I kind of remember, and maybe everybody had a Mr. So-and-so who was like a neighbor, and feel free to jump in with any of your neighbors that were particularly notable, planting a seed in your head. In fact, if you want to put that on, maybe it'll come up to you. That's Tom's thinking cap.
There we go.
Can you read that? Yeah, I'll put mine on too.
Yeah, I had good.
Thinking caps. Yeah.
And there's all different, as we talk about this, there's different ages, like the forts and things. We were pretty young with that, but then I was a paper boy. And,
Okay.
And most of us, big family, and we mostly worked
Yeah.
at something or another, you know, and a
Yeah.
few of us were paper boys.
Right.
And
Was that where they had like a metal ring around a bunch of cards, or was that after your time?
yeah, that would have been, I don't
I
recognize, I don't
remember
know
that.
what you mean there.
Oh, okay.
So the paper boys,
Yeah.
this was, in Philadelphia, it was the Philadelphia Bulletin.
Okay.
And that was the afternoon paper.
Right,
The
they had two
Inquirer was
papers at
the
the
morning.
time.
Right. The Inquirer
Okay.
was in the morning,
Right.
and the Bulletin was in the afternoon. The
Yeah.
Bulletin was delivered by paper boys.
Yes.
And so we had a canvas, a big canvas white bag with a strap on it that would go over your
Yeah.
shoulder, or in the front of a
Yeah.
bike, and you wrapped it around the handlebars.
Did you do bike or walk?
I did both at different
Did you?
times. Yeah, I had lots of paperboy stories. I remember using a sled in the snow, you know, and
To take all the papers.
yeah, because
Now,
they were
when-
heavy when we were
When
young.
the company would deliver your papers, where would they
branch.
deliver them?
To the branch.
Oh, there was a branch.
Yeah, so that's what we called it. the
Was it
branch.
was it a commercial place or another guy's house?
No, it was a little storefront, and
Ah. Yeah.
That's where we would go. So all the boys,
Yeah.
we went to the branch to get our papers. You got your count. You made sure you had all that.
Did you say you were morning or evening?
Evening?
Evening.
But
Okay.
I think maybe the morning was delivered by older people in cars or something. I don't remember how that happened.
Yeah.
Nobody was a morning paper boy. It was
Yeah.
always in the afternoon.
Well, yeah,
But,
you had to get up and get to school.
Yeah, right. But back then it was just
Yeah.
in the afternoon. But the thing,
Yeah.
the point being now, so I'll say you had the bike or you walked or shopping cart, and
Right.
and then you had you collected every week on Friday. You collected.
I was going to ask you how often you collected, and it was once a week. Was it
Right.
always Friday?
Yeah, collected on Friday.
So they would know you'd be around.
Right. And then you had a little
Yeah.
book with clips on it where you could add and remove papers.
Right.
It opened up like a binder would. It was small. And that's where you
okay.
kept track of your customers and things like that.
Yeah.
But what you reminded me of with the old guys, I don't know, I didn't really have a cranky old guy story, but this
Yeah.
guy was a nice guy across
Yeah.
the street. And he had been a milkman. Oh, and so the paper boys had a
Milkman.
they
That's
had a
another
coin
one.
changer.
Oh,
remember?
yeah,
You had
yeah.
and you had the different slots, quarters, nickels, dimes, and pennies.
Right, yeah.
And you wore that on your side. See?
Yeah.
So this always stuck with me, and it always bothered me that it's not taught. But he taught me how to give change. It's not taught in school. That backwards counting,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
it's never taught. You don't learn that.
Now, what do you
in
mean
school.
by what would be a backwards count? Give me an
Okay, good, yeah.
example.
So let's say he owes me $1.65,
Okay.
and he gives me $2.
Got it.
Well, if you don't do that, you're sitting there as a kid trying to do the math. What's
Right.
165 from 200?
Correct.
And then how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
When it's much simpler than that. And they always did it in the stores, and you observed it until you got it at some point. But here's what it was. So he said, if I give you $2
Yeah.
and I owe you 165,
Right.
you count up. You don't try to do the math. You just say, well, one dime will bring it to 175,
Right.
and a quarter will get it to $2. See?
That's the
Very
simplest way to
simple.
do it.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And I don't even know how much I gave, and I don't know the math, and I don't care, and neither does he,
Yeah.
because I gave him a dime and a quarter, and that's what I should have
Yeah.
given to him.
I'll be darned.
Now it gets more complicated. Let's say
Yeah.
it was a $10 bill, and you're talking about 641.
Okay. Okay.
4 pennies brings you to 45. A nickel brings you to 50.
So you would always start
Just
at the
start
bottom.
at the
or
bottom. Start
yeah.
where you are. Go up to the
Yeah.
5 cent and the 10 cent,
Yeah.
and then 2 quarters is to the $6 now, or
Sure.
whatever I said,
Yeah.
and 4 ones.
Okay.
And now you've given them the change, and we don't know how much it is. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And they criticize the kids today because they don't. If the old white guy like me gives let's say it's $4.92,
Yeah.
and I give them the 2 pennies.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, I really
Manager.
screwed them up. yeah, right. And the old people will still do that, And so,
Yeah, I
So-
hear you.
and they need to register to do it, but
Yeah.
it was never taught. It wasn't taught back then, and I don't think it's still taught. The
Yeah.
simplest way to just give change, and
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and it isn't. So I had an old milkman
Yeah.
taught me as a paper boy.
Oh,
how to do that,
yeah, your mentor.
Yeah, so he just took the time to say, I guess I was struggling with it, trying to give him
Yeah.
a say. He said, here's how you do it. So
Yeah.
I still remember the guy teaching me that.
Ah, the milkman. We'll get to that too. I think that's in the next chapter. As usual, we go sideways because we're all old white guys, and
That's what
Tom
we
was.
do.
That's what we do. That's right. When I try and approach somebody to see if they're interested in doing an interview, and I got to tell you, folks, you should give me a lot of credit. Tom, of course, is the tech person. He takes over after I go get the interviews. But there's a lot of people that don't want to do
Oh,
interviews.
yeah, I'm sure.
And so I have to kind of massage them. And I just went over the 100 mark last week. And Tom,
Good.
I got to tell you, I don't know if you get the same report I do as to how many downloads I had the week before, but I've getting some of the highest numbers I've ever had because people now are discovering there's 100 on here, and
And they want to go back.
and they
listen
go
to this
back.
one and that. Good. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's good that when we started, decided to label the people like
Yeah,
we talked about Gladys in hospitality at Graceland when I was
Right.
on a trip
Yeah.
there,
yeah.
and that was Gladys who emigrated from Nigeria, and I had a fraternity brother today write me and said, "Yeah, I remember Gladys." And that was a long time. That was
Yeah,
a couple
it
of
was,
years
it was.
ago.
I always liked
Yeah.
the guy. There was a guy that was, I think it was a black guy, maybe some kind
Yeah.
of house worker.
Yes.
That he was a preacher.
That's
At
right.
13.
Greenbrier. At the
Is that what it
Greenbrier
was?
in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
13 years old, he started
Yeah,
preaching.
that's
So that's
right.
another great story.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
but-
have to go back, and I've started to kind of go back too. I'm enjoying them.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I also did one with a guy by the name of Darius, a black guy who works at my athletic club I go
Uh-huh.
to. And I was talking to Darius the other day, or maybe it was somebody else there, and I said, "Yeah," I said, "I have a fair representation of black people on there
Yeah,
for
that's
being an old white guy
Yeah.
who grew up in the suburbs." And this other person had just listened to a lot of them and said, "Yeah, you had Darius, you had Gladys, you had what was his name? The preacher from the Greenbrier, and somebody else."
I know, not only those, but
Yeah.
to your credit, there's
Yeah.
the jeweler from one of the Kafiristan or something. You know?
Yeah,
That's
a
lot
barber
of-
from Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
I get those stands all mixed
Yeah,
up.
well, they are.
Yeah.
Stan kind of means city or state.
I
something
guess
like
it
that.
must.
Yeah. State, I think it is.
Yeah.
Like that, you know.
And there's
But
got to
it's,
be 6 or 7 of
Yeah,
them
there are.
of stands
Yeah,
over
just
there.
below Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someday we'll talk about those too, because I watch a lot of those on YouTube now about how those
Well,
countries
even the
developed.
Pakistan, remember? But
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I forget those. They're kind of not lumped with the other stands, but yeah,
Yeah.
Pakistan.
Pakistan being a one of the other countries in the world that has nuclear
Yeah, true.
capabilities.
Yeah.
And that's another topic for we got more topics, Tom. And you remember
Sure.
that bin I had that we never got to?
Yeah,
That's still sitting somewhere.
right.
But,
Well, headlines.
but now I'm on to
Newspaper
books.
headlines. Yeah. So go ahead.
So-
What else you got?
Well, we'll have some more of
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
We got to get on with our day. I want to show Tom something that happened to me last week, a health thing, almost a bad accident. Out in my backyard. So I think we're going to be done for today. So this will be Doug signing off from Doug's Interesting People. And Tom,
Take care.
our tech genius, please check out Spotify and this YouTube, of course. And we're going to try and do some more YouTubes, some baby boomer things and some current events, things in the news. So that's it for today.